Now, the LPG Marketers Association have shut down their gas stations across the country in protest of a ban on the construction of new stations. They say they are not reopening the stations until they receive a positive feedback from government concerning the suspension of construction of gas stations across the country. According to them, they had sunk more than $10 million into the construction of new stations before the ban by the NPP government in 2017, and not lifting it is killing the industry. The president of the association, Gabriel Kumi, says government is doing this because it wants to roll out its cylinder recirculation policy, describing it as a bad way of attempting to create a new industry at the expense of an existing one. He spoke to me earlier.
The main issue bothering and confronting all these associations is the $10 million that our members have sunk on the ground in the name of constructing LPG stations that a ban has been placed on. For the past 5 years, we are not able to finish these projects and recoup the investment made in them so we can repay the loans we've taken from the bank. We had been given various permits over the years, and we have started construction. And we have sunk a lot of borrowed funds into these projects. So allow us to complete those ones, so that if you issue instruction to MPA to say that, look, from today, don't issue any new permit to anybody to construct LPG station in Ghana, we go by that. But those that we have been given permit by fire permit, EPA permit, MPA no objection permit, MPA construction permit, and all that, and we have begun construction. Please give us that leeway so that we'll be able to construct those stations so we can recoup the investment and repay our loans to the bank. And my brother, we've been fighting this for 5 good years. We don't seem to achieve any results. For a businessman in this era of COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine war, in this difficult time, for a businessman to wake up in the morning and say, I'm locking up my business, that fits me. It tells you that something big is chasing that person. And that is where we've gotten to now. We didn't have to get here. We have written letters to the ministries, to MPA, and even to cabinet, to consider indigenous Ghanaians who have invested $10 million on the ground. Where is our support for the private sector that we always talk about? LPG is the only industry in Ghana that has 100% local content in terms of participation. The LPG downstream is 100%. Now in Ghana, even Kelewele selling and Bayayachi is being taken over by Chinese. We cannot go to cabinet to spill our grievances. We can only do that through our regulator like MPA and then through the ministry. If these people are presented what they need to present and it's not being adhered to, maybe cabinet is not understanding the magnitude of the situation. So maybe such actions, when the general public began to speak, cabinet will listen to us.
So what do you think is causing the reluctance on the part of cabinet to listen?
Your guess, I don't know. I can't tell. I can't tell that you have your indigents. You have a local industry like the LPG downstream industry, made up of indigenous Ghanaians, 100%. The LPG industry in Ghana has been built by indigenous Ghanaians. When we started LPG in Ghana, the foreign companies like the Totals and the Shells were involved. They all chickened out because of the sensitive nature of the product, because of the difficulty in trying to market and distribute that product. It took the ordinary Ghanaian to stand tall, and we have built the industry over the past 25 years to where it is today. So as to why cabinet doesn't want to, we understand government wants to introduce a new policy, cylinder recirculation policy. That is why all these things is going on. But you don't destroy your existing industry just because you have the intention of introducing a new one. How sure are you the new one you are going to introduce will succeed or will fail? You have a bird in hand. You have an industry that employs about 7,000 direct labor, 7,000 Ghanaians. So even if you have an intention to introduce a new one, must you destroy the existing one? Now consumption of LPG is on the decline.
So when are you reopening the stations?
It's an indefinite strike that we have embarked on, not until we get something positive from. This is a legitimate demand. I'm sure you are convinced, that the way you are nodding, you're convinced that we are making a very legitimate demand.
Joining us on phone is Mohammed Kudus, who is the communications manager for the NPA, which is the regulator for this industry. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, why has government decided not to allow the construction of gas stations, which were in progress before this ban?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Let me say good morning to you. Good morning to your cherished viewers. Regrettably, I don't speak for government. I speak for NPA. And so if the question is asked, why as government, I believe that I'm not in the capacity.
Well, you are an agency of government. You are the regulator of this industry. And so whatever is happening to it is communicated through you. And that's why I'm asking, why is this happening?
Yes, so like you, we all heard from Gabi. It is a decision that was taken after the atomic junction in it. And it was a decision that was taken by cabinet and government for that matter, not the National Petroleum Authority. And so the decision is taken and then communicated to us, even though we are the regulators for the industry. It is not going to be easy for me to categorically state what government position is today. What I know is that the incident happened and everybody was actually awakened to the dangers of the industry and the need to properly regulate it so that if we are not able to completely eliminate the consequences that come with this accident, we're able to reduce the impact of same to the barest minimum. And that was the reason for which the decision was taken that, okay, at that time, let's suspend the licenses and permits for the construction of more filling stations so that we all take stock of the industry, look at what is going to be the best way forward to guarantee the security and safety of the industry. And that is what actually led to that particular determination. When the sanction would be suspended, I'm not too sure I can comment on that because, like I said from the beginning.
So as a regulator of the industry, since this decision was taken in 2017, up until now, it's been more than 5 years. What have you done, or what has been done to ensure that the construction can kick off, bearing in mind the standards that are supposed to be followed to prevent what happened?
Yeah, so in fact, there has been a stakeholder engagement or committee kind of that was put together to look at the way forward. There have been some evaluations, some advice that have actually gone to the ministry and cabinet for that matter. Unfortunately, I will not be able to put that out to the public because, as it were, it remains a report or an advice that went to the minister and cabinet for that particular matter. We're trying to do a lot, as it were, to get not just the people who have had their investment locked up in the construction of those particular filling stations, but to bring the proper sanity to the operations of the industry so that at least there would be a win-win situation for all of us. If you think the kind of investment that we're talking about in the construction of a gas filling station, and then in a minute it is consumed by fire, I'm not too sure it would actually be anything palatable to any investor at all. So we are minded by that consideration. We are minded by the issue of how investments have been locked up, and are hoping to get a solution that will be good for all of us. But like I said, I'm not able to speak directly to the timelines because
that's fine. But now we are, because of this whole thing, the gas stations have closed and they are not operating, and it's affecting how consumers like myself, like the one who's watching us now, is having access to gas. So what are you doing to ensure that this does not bring any untold hardship on the citizenry?
Yeah, so when the signals were sent as of Friday last week, immediately over the weekend, we tried to call for a meeting to have an understanding of where we are and where we're going from the concerns that they were raising. And we scheduled to have the meeting that was yesterday at 10 a.m. My information is that the parties involved, the Tanker Drivers Association, the LPG Marketers Association, said they had the notice very short and they could not make it. I believe that anytime soon we'll probably be meeting again and be able to bring it to a closure so that we can get the industry back on course. It is something that is going to affect everybody in the country because of the critical nature of the product. And obviously, it will have to take a dialogue. It will have to come to people meeting at the round table to take a decision so that we'll be able to move forward from here. And that is why we are urging them and would want to urge them using your medium and equally urge you to add your voice to it to get to the discussion table. I think that is where people can put everything on the table, then we can move forward from that. The decision for which was that led to the suspension of the construction was actually for a good reason. It's interesting that the central team to the whole strike that started with Tanker Drivers Association is a bit fading, and now the construction is taking the lead stage. That is
because of that, the stations have also closed down. People are not having access to gas, and it has already started biting. I've had a text message from someone who bakes, and he says he got short, he went to the market, he didn't get it. So people are already feeling the brunt. That's why I'm asking that what is that strategic thing the MPA is doing to ensure that it doesn't even bite them more?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that we're hoping to get a closure on it yesterday if the meeting had actually come up. But unfortunately, we're not able to have it. We are working at them to get them to the table. Because if you're not able to get them to the table, solution is going to really be difficult to arrive at. So that's why we're urging that let's get to the table. You see, there are competing interests that inform decisions that are taken ultimately. It is not just one of the interests. So if you decide that somebody has spoken and has called for the lifting of the ban on the construction, then the next moment you see people then start also to strike and say that we don't want this filling station at this place, we don't want it at that particular place. So we need to marry all of the competing needs and be able to arrive at a long-lasting solution than to hit one only to be confronted by the other. And that's why we're urging that let's come to.
Well, Abdul Kudus, the persons whose business relies on access to gas is probably asking, so what time are you getting these people to the table so that my business is not affected that much?
So I agree with you. Because of the urgency that we are attached to this, minded by the consequences of the non-supply of the product. That's why we didn't even wait for the strike to start on Monday. Immediately we heard the alarm bells being rung as of Friday. As of Sunday, we sent notices. Now look, we are partners in this industry. These are issues that you are bringing. Come to the table, let's discuss them. Like I said, for some want of one inconvenience or the other, they were not able to make it up to the meeting. We're hoping that we'll do it as soon as possible and be able to get the industry back online so that the consumers are not badly affected as you've just illustrated.
Abdul Kudus, I really appreciate you, but the fact is that as soon as possible, that's not serve me right if I'm planning for my company, if I'm planning for my business. So do we have a definite time at which the MPA is working towards to ensure it gets these people to the table to agree on something so that my business is not affected that much? As soon as possible, it doesn't cut it for me.
Because if we had had the meeting yesterday, probably by this time, this whole issue we are talking about would have been history. It is because the meeting was not able to be convened and proper representation made at the table. That is why we probably are still talking about the matter. It was something that we anticipated that the parties would come to the meeting yesterday, and by now we wouldn't have been having the issue on hand and still be discussing it most probably. But like I said, it is because the meeting didn't come. Because ultimately to drive at this particular solution is to get the meeting. To ask me of timeline would be difficult because, like I stated earlier, we communicated hoping to have the meeting yesterday. It didn't come up. I don't know whether the meeting would be heeded to and they would be coming to table for the meeting. I don't have that communication yet. After the aborted meeting yesterday, this was the briefing I had. And since morning, I've actually been speaking to you guys in the media trying to...
All right. Thank you very much. Mohammed Abdul Kudus is Communications Manager for the National Petroleum Authority, regulator of the downstream gas industry.